So here's where we're doing. We're in a series called Final Week. And it's the last 7 days of Jesus' life. And I know typically on Palm Sunday, we would talk about Jesus coming in on Palm Sunday. And everyone laying the palm branches at his feet. We got palm branches when you walked in. I hope you saw them. Way to go, Rita. Always making the place look great. Hosanna, Hosanna, save us, save us. Calling upon Jesus for salvation. Problem? The king that they were looking for was a different king. They were looking for a king to set up his earthly kingdom. And even though they cried out Hosanna, it was a fickle cry. Because just a few days later, just 5 days later, they would cry out, crucify him, crucify him. He's not our king. And a shallow commitment. And so Palm Sunday, Jesus weeps. He cries, "Oh, Jerusalem, how I wanted to gather you together. Like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing, and that you did not recognize this your day of visitation." And he weeps over Israel. And so we've been looking at this final week, and we saw that he rides out of town, and the next day is Monday. He rides back into Jerusalem in the morning, and he curses the fig tree. A picture of Israel being cut off, and the Gentiles, the message of the gospel going out to the Gentiles. And he rides into the temple, and he overturns the tables, and he flips over the money changers, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing? You have turned my Father's house, which is meant to be a house of prayer, a place where my people call upon my name. And I meet them, and I feed them, and I nourish them. And you've taken it from that, and you've turned it into merchandise. You've turned it into a store." And with great anger, he flips the tables. And then Tuesday, he goes and he starts speaking. And last week, we looked at how he spoke to the religious leaders of Israel. And it was a tough word. A tough word. Well, today we pick up on Tuesday, on still the same day. And the message title this morning is Real Intimacy. After cursing the fig tree, after rebuking the religious leaders who had so led God's people astray, Jesus then goes and says, "Here's what I am looking for. Here's what I want." And I'm so happy to share this message with you today, because here we see the desire of our King. Here we see the desire of our Savior. What does he desire? Well, he desires real intimacy with us. Think of the word intimacy. What do you think of? Think how precious, how tender the word intimacy is. No, not just physical intimacy. I'm talking real, genuine intimacy with someone. Where you know them deeply, they know you deeply. There's a love and a care for each other that is so intimate. And that is what the Lord is looking for in our lives. Real intimacy. Jesus has just informed the disciples, "One of you is going to betray me." And all the disciples said, "Is it I? Is it I?" None of the disciples said, "Oh, it's Judas, isn't it? I know it's Judas." No. It didn't work that way. It's easy to put a good picture on the outside. They couldn't tell Judas was a bad guy. He didn't wear a black hat and didn't have horns growing out his head. They didn't know. But what they did wonder is, "Lord, is it I?" Why did they say, "Is it I?" Because all of us are so painfully aware of what? Our sin nature. "Lord, is it I? Am I going to be the one who messes this up?" And Judas goes off, and he goes off to do his betrayal. And now Jesus has a real intimate time with his disciples. That's where we're picking it up. John chapter 13. Let's pick it up in verse 31. How does that sound? John chapter 13, verse 31. If you're there, say amen. Oh, not everybody's there. If you're there, say amen. John 13, 31. "So when he had gone out," that's Judas had gone out. Jesus has now his his core, the real believers there. This is a family meeting. When Judas had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him." God is glorified in Jesus. And if God is glorified in him, in Jesus, God will also glorify Jesus in himself and glorify him immediately. Little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. Yeah, it's Thursday. At this point, it's Thursday, and he says, "Hey, I'm only going to be with you a little while longer. I'm going to die tomorrow. And you will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, where I am going, you cannot come. So now I say to you." Jesus, knowing that he's going to the cross, knowing that he's going to ascend up to the Father, he says, "Where I am going, you cannot come." And no doubt that was devastating to the disciples. Think about if you were one of those 11 in that circle right there. You've been with Jesus now 3.5 years. You've left everything. Your life has been transformed by his love. Never have you been known like you've been known by Jesus. He looks at you and he sees things into you and he speaks directly to your soul like no one has ever spoke to you. He reveals things about why you do what you do and gives you instruction and insight like no one has ever spoke to you. You've experienced love and compassion. You've had mercy given to you when you did not deserve it over and over and over again. It's an incredible relationship, and now you hear, "I'm going to die." Imagine the devastation that is on their hearts. In verse 34, he says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also would love one another. And by this all will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another." Some interesting things that Jesus said in this passage. And one of the things that I find astonishing is he says, "Now I'm going to be glorified." Glorified? Jesus, you're going to the cross. How are you going to be glorified? Jesus saying, "I'm not going to be with you. I'm going to die. I'm going to be glorified." Are you kidding? How? Jesus, you were in heaven. You had all your glory there. The angels would worship you. The seraphim would fly around and say, "Holy, holy, holy." If you issued a statement, it would be done. Your will being done in heaven. No, there you had glory. I don't think you're going to have any glory going to the cross. How are you going to have glory on the cross? You're going to be stripped, naked. Imagine the humility. You're going to be beaten. They're going to put a bag over your head and hit you in the face and say, "Oh, prophesy to us, prophet, who hit you?" And mock you and laugh you. They're going to dress you up in a mock robe. Consider. Well, what do you mean glorified? And if that were not enough, then they're going to strip you again, and they're going to take you out to the whipping block. And they will whip you 39 times, waiting for you to confess your crime. And because he has no crime to confess, he's going to take all of the whippings, 39, with a cat o' nine tails. A big whip with all kinds of sharp edges on the end of just crazy. What do you mean glorified? Then they will put a crown of thorns on your head, press it into your head, and you will be bleeding everywhere. Jesus, you had all glory in heaven. There is no glory for you on the cross. What do you mean glorified? What do you mean glorified? And Jesus, knowing something that we don't know, We would look at that and we say, he was not at all glorified in that. We would say, what the heck? That's like a horrible thing. But here's what Jesus knew. Jesus is glorified in the cross because in the cross, he is able to reveal the depth of his love for you. In the cross, he is glorified because he is able to reveal the depth of the Father's love for you. In the cross, Jesus is glorified because he is able to manifest, he is able to tangibly show who he is, his character and his person. We have such a difficult time saying, oh yeah, well I love this, I love that. No, in the cross, God will demonstrate his love for us by giving everything that he has for us. I heard a story of a man who had 3 sons. The sons were out drinking. They were all partying together, and they got in a tragic, very serious collision. And all 3 sons were in critical condition. One had a lacerated liver. The other crushed both of their lungs. And the other one actually tore the heart so badly that he needed a heart transplant. And the father gets a phone call. Your 3 sons have been in an accident. It's bad. He gets down there. He finds out they're all on life support, and they all need organ donations. New lungs, new liver, new heart. And in order to save the boy's life, the father says, I'm going to give my organs to my kids. The doctor says, I can't do that. It would kill you. The dad says, then I'm going to kill myself and donate my organs. That is a picture. What would happen? Oh, the father would be glorified in this act for his children. Forever, those children will remember, oh my gosh, look at the love my father had for me. I'm only alive today because of what my dad did for me on that drunken, stupid night when I was foolish and selfish and so wayward. He told me not to go out. I did it anyway. And in this, Jesus says, you're going to all be glorified. How so? Not that there's any glory in the cross. No. The glory in the cross is the glory of revealing my love for you. The glory in you understanding just how much you mean to me. The cross demonstrates what we could not understand any other way, that God would leave heaven and become a man and take upon all the sin of the world on his own shoulders just to bring us eternal life with him. Amazing. And Jesus, taking our sin upon his own back, says, I'm glorified in doing so because then you will understand my love for you. This Friday at 6:30, we're going to remember, we're going to ponder, we're going to meditate upon, we're going to commemorate the darkest day in human history. The darkest day in human history, where we would do such wicked things to a man. How many of you were astonished at what we saw in Syria this week? Crazy. Lord, may you strengthen our president. May you bless him. May you give him the wisdom. I was so glad to see this response of saying, hey, those lives matter. These lives matter. So glad to see that. An action has to be taken to show that lives matter. And on Good Friday, Jesus took an action to say, you matter to me. You're important to me. And we are going to celebrate the darkest day in human history, but the brightest day in divine history, the day when Almighty God laid on his Son the sins of all mankind. And Jesus willingly went to the cross. He took our punishment. He took our death. He took our separation from God. And he bore it alone. And he did all this so that those who trust in him would not live in darkness, but that they would have light in their life, have instruction in their life. So that we would not live in the bondage of sin. We would be delivered from the bondage of sin. So that we would not live in spiritual death, but we would have spiritual life. So that we would be with God both now and eternally, forever, because of what He did for us on the cross. And so the cross, it glorifies Jesus by revealing who God is. And I'm so thankful. Look at how Jesus looks at this. The Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in Him. What a glory. What a glory. Not only does He say, hey, look, you're going to understand something. I'm going to be glorified in this because you're going to understand my love like you never have before. I know you think you know my love right now, but you're going to really know my love after I do this. Then He says something interesting. Look what He says. He says, now, verse 34, now I give you a new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. A new commandment. Hey, that's not so new. That's not so new, Jesus. As a matter of fact, it was like 1,400 years old, 1400 BC. Moses told us the same thing. Love your neighbor as yourself. Not really a new commandment. No, it is a new commandment because I'm not just asking you to love one another. He's saying, I'm asking you to love one another how? As I have loved you. Well, and He's in the process of saying this. Within 24 hours, He's going to lay His life down for them. And so it is a new commandment. How so? Because love has now been redefined. Jesus has just redefined love. Love has been redefined by what Jesus is doing right now. It's a new commandment. Love has been redefined. Before Jesus, we thought love meant this. Well, I'll love you if you love me back. I'll love you if you do, I'll do these things for you and you do these things for me and we'll be married. It kind of reminds me of kindergarten love. Do you remember kindergarten love? I remember kindergarten love. Kindergarten love, it's Valentine's Day, and you got that special little Valentine, and you pick out your favorite Hot Wheel card for her, right? And there's a box inside, and it says, do you love me? Yes? No. Right to the basics. And you give that card, and you're waiting for it back. And if it doesn't come back, if it does come back, okay, I like you. If it doesn't come back, I don't like you anymore. Kindergarten love. That's what we think love is like. That kindergartners represent it so well, but that's what we all really act like in love. We think love means I'll love you if you love me back. Human love works like that, doesn't it? I'll meet your needs if you meet my needs. That's human love. And as a result, when we love like that, we have shallow lives. Shallow lives. If you have emptiness in your heart, if you're not wanting the depth of, if you're not having the depth of life that you want, if there's some intimacy lacking in your life, I would evaluate your own love. How are you loving people? Jesus said, hey, look, here's how I want you to love. I want you to love others like I loved you. He is redefining love. And if you love that way, you're going to have an amazingly full life. You're going to have incredible joy. It's amazing love. And it's a different kind of love. Human love says, hey, I'll meet your needs if you meet my needs. Jesus says, I'm showing you something new. That's not real love. This is real love. Tomorrow I will go to the cross for you. You don't even want me to do it. You're trying to talk me out of it, but I'm going, and it's for your benefit. I'm going to lay down my life for you. And He says that's what real love is. And listen, Christian, He's not here saying, I want to leave you with your selfish love. He's saying, listen, guys, you've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. I tell you, I want you to love differently than that. And now He's showing us exactly what it is. This is the love I'm looking for. Love has been redefined. And that is just incredible for us to consider. And here's what I want us to to think about. Let's be honest. Can we love that way? Can we love that way? I want to tell you something about myself. I can't love that way. I can't love that selflessly. Here's what happens. When someone hurts me, you know what I want to do? You know what I want to do when someone really hurts me that I love? You know what I want to do? I want to fight back. Or I want to put up a wall and just protect myself from that hurtful lover. I want to do one of two things. I either want to give them what for? Hey, what do you think you're doing? Treating me like this? Da, da, da. Or I want to put up a wall and say, hey, you just stay over there. Yeah, I love you. I love you from afar. Right? And Jesus here says, no, I'm asking you to do something different. I'm asking you to love like I love. And if the truth be told, I can't love that way. It's not hard to love like that. It's impossible to love like that. It's impossible. And that's why Jesus says, look what he says. Look at verse 35. We'll go to 34. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. That's not new. As I have loved you. Oh, that's new. That you love one another like that. And look what he says in verse 35. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you love each other like that. Yeah, you will stand out different because the whole world can't do this. No one else can love like this. I can't do this on my own. You can't do this on your own. And Jesus says, hey, look, if you love selflessly, here's what's going to happen. You are going to look radically different than everybody else. And everyone, you don't have to tell them you're a Christian. You don't have to. You just love like this, and everyone will know they know Jesus. Powerful. That's powerful. The hallmark of knowing Jesus is loving in a way that serves other people. Jesus says, this is the hallmark of knowing me. You will have a love that looks different than everyone else's love. You will be serving. I got here this morning. You know what I saw? Scores of people here this morning making all this possible for you. They're loving you and they're loving Jesus. And I'm like, who is like you? You guys are amazing. Poor Casey, our brand new sound man. You know, we got a new sound man this week. Ryan Herring, our previous sound man, got a job at a church in San Marcos as a youth pastor. So happy for him. And Casey's standing in the gap. And here he is this morning, new technology, new stuff. Poor guy, just like, figuring it all out. What's he doing? He's loving you. He's loving Jesus. And when we love others selflessly, you know what happens? Your life looks different. And people go, wow, you're amazing. I can see that you have a relationship with God. The problem is I don't know how to love like that on my own. I can't love like that on my own. And so Jesus teaches us how to love that way. How are you going to love someone who wrongs you? How are you going to love someone who really wounds you deeply, who stabs you in the back and says, yeah, take this, and hurts you so bad you can't even, how are you going to love? Well, here's how he tells us. Look what he says. Chapter 15. Save your spot in chapter 13. We're going to come right back. Chapter 15, he says, this is how you can do it. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Now, question for you. What is the fruit Jesus is looking for? What is the fruit of the Spirit? Love. Clearly, Galatians 5:22, right? The fruit of the Spirit is love. No question about it. So let's look at this again. Chapter 15, verse 1. I am the true vine, or in other words, I am real love. And my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear love, he takes away. And every branch that bears love, he prunes that it might bear more love. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Now abide in me. Abide means stay close to me. Abide means have real intimacy with me. Abide means, hey, look in my eyes, know my heart, know my mind. It means be united with me. Abide in me. Jump down to verse 10. Look what he says. If you keep my commandments, you will what? Abide in my love. So abide means obeying Jesus, doing what he says. Verse 4, abide in me. Obey me, know me, walk intimately with me. Abide in me, and I in you. All abide in you. As the branch cannot bear love of itself unless it abides in love. Unless it abides, the vine is real love. The vine is Jesus' love. A branch cannot bear love unless it abides in Jesus' love. Neither can you unless you abide in me. Hey, this is real intimacy Jesus is looking for. And as he has just spoken to the religious leaders and given them rebuke for everything that they took away from what a real relationship with God looks like, now Jesus focuses all of our attention with a laser pointer on what he's really looking for, and he's saying, what I want is real intimacy with you. And I want to be pouring my love into you. I want you to be abiding in my real love. I want you to be experiencing my love for you. I want you to be knowing my love for you. I want you to be reading my word and understanding my love for you, because when you do, you're going to produce real love in your life. It'll be the fruit that comes out of you. Verse 5, he goes on with this metaphor. I am the vine, or in other words, I am real love, and you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, will bear much fruit, will bear much love. For without me, you can do nothing. I want you to underline those words. Without me, you can do nothing. Without me, you can do nothing. Verse 6, if anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. Yeah, that's a life without real love. That's a life without Jesus Christ. At the end of it, it's like a withered branch. You just throw it into the fire. Verse 7, if you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. I'm going to ask you to underline something else. Underline this. Ask what you desire. It shall be done for you. I want you to underline that. And now I want you to do this. I want you to look at verse 5, what you underline, and verse 7, what you underline. Do you see what Jesus is doing? Jesus just juxtaposed two positions there. Without me, you can do nothing. But if you abide in me, whatever you ask, it will be done for you. Which camp do you want to live in, church? Which person do you want to be? Without me, you can't love this way. But with me, you can ask, and I will help you. Whatever you ask, I'll help you love that way. Verse 8, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much love, that you bear much fruit. And then you'll be my disciples. He's saying the same thing again. Hey, everyone's going to know you're my disciple because all the love that comes out of you. Verse 9, as the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Now abide in my love. Look how he's loving them right now, laying down his life for them. And he says, now listen, I loved you just like the Father loved me, and I just want you to experience and to bathe in this real love. And I tell you what, this is real intimacy. This is the intimacy that Jesus is looking for in our life. Verse 10, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I keep my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Hey, you know, Jesus didn't want to go to the cross right now. It wasn't like Jesus was going, yeah, man, I can't wait to get whipped. I can't wait to get beaten. I can't wait to have that cat of nine tails hit me in the back 39 times, pulling off big chunks of my flesh. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. No, not at all. But he loved keeping the Father's commandment. And the Father said, in eternity past, This is going to be the price of the redemption. Oh, I love them that much. No, I'll pay the price. No problem. And they'll understand my love. I'll be glorified in this because they'll understand how much I care for them. And that's what he's saying right here. He's saying, listen, I keep my Father's commands because I know how much my Father loves you, and I know he wants to redeem you, and so I'm gladly going to the cross. Verse 11, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full. Here's the sum of the matter. When we put away selfless love, and we start walking in the selfless love of Jesus Christ, when we are bathing in his love, and it starts flowing out of us and transforming our life, here's what he says. You're going to have incredible joy. You're going to have the joy of my Father, and your life is going to be full of joy. You're not going to go around and say, how come I don't have any friends? You're going to have so many friends because you love selflessly. You're not going to wonder, how come nobody likes you? How come nobody likes me? Everyone's going to like you. Well, not everyone. Jesus is going to get to that in the next chapter. Some will hate you, but a lot of people will love you because you love like Jesus loves. Your joy will be full. Verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Love has been redefined. Love has been redefined. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends, he goes on to say. Powerful. Yeah, Jesus, I can't love with the love you're talking about. Yeah, you're right, you can't. Without me, you can do nothing, but abide in me, and you'll love like this. Let's go back to verse 36. Simon Peter says, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus said, where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterward. Jesus talking about his death and his ascension. Peter's not understanding. Peter says, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for your sake. I'll lay down my life. This is just a great picture of human love right here. Human love is just like this. Why can't I? Oh, no, I'll follow you anywhere. Human love, it promises much, but it delivers little, doesn't it? We make vows on the altar when we get married. Oh, I'll love you for better, for worse, for richer or poor, in sickness and in health. Come hell or high water, I'll love you. And 52% of those, human love promises much and it delivers little. Verse 38, Jesus answered him, will you lay down your life for my sake? Most assuredly I say to you, the rooster will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Wow. Yeah, Jesus knows. My death is only a day away, and the rooster's not going to crow again 3 times before you've denied me 3 times. Poor Peter. Oh, man, poor Peter. I can so relate to Peter. In his mind, he really loved Jesus. Jesus, I'm willing to fight to the death for you. But when it came time, where was Peter? Boy, he was warming himself where? By the enemy's fire. Cursing that he did not know Jesus. Betraying him over a young girl who comes to him and says, aren't you one of his disciples? And he takes an oath. I swear to God, I do not know him. Moments later, cock-a-doodle-doo. And Peter weeps bitterly. Oh, my love, it is so shallow. I promised so much, I delivered so little. My love is so weak. How do you think Peter felt when that rooster crowed? How do you think he felt? Think he thought about suicide? I guarantee it. think he thought, oh man, I'm so bad. I'm so messed up. Oh, I guarantee it. We know the sorrow, don't we? I tell you, I do. When we discover how shabby our love really is, how selfish our love really is, how cold our love really is, how self-preserving our love really is. Isn't it heartbreaking when we discover that about ourselves? I want you to know something. You might want to write this down. Selfish love produces bitter emptiness and despair. Selfish love produces bitter emptiness. Think about the bitter emptiness that Peter is going through right now. Hey, maybe in your marriage you've been a selfish lover. I just want you to know bitter emptiness is down the road. Maybe in your friendships you've been a selfish lover. Yeah, that's maybe the wrong word, but a selfish friend. Bitter emptiness. You want to have a life full of joy, Jesus says? You want your joy to be full? Love like I have loved. It'll be full. It's not always easy, but you'll have a full life, amazing joy. Without Jesus, we might think, like Peter, oh yeah, I'll love you forever. I'll make a vow, yeah, till death do us part. You won't be able to keep the vow you made. You know why? Because your love isn't that great. Your love is selfish. My love is selfish. That's human love. Life will reveal, like it did for Peter, that what we really love is ourselves. And despair and bitter weeping will follow. As I said, selfish love always produces bitter emptiness. But here's the really good news. You want the really good news? If you abide in Jesus' love, you'll be able to love like Jesus loved. How did Jesus love? Well, he was willing to lay down his life for other people. He was willing to forgive when they didn't deserve forgiveness, and that gave him joy. He was willing to build them up when they didn't deserve to get built up, and that gave him joy. He was willing to do good things when good things weren't deserved, and that gave him joy. He was able to walk in the will of the Father because he loved selflessly. If we abide in Jesus' love, we'll be able to love others as he loved, and our joy will be more full. That's an amazing promise. And I want you to think about what Jesus said in John chapter 15 when we juxtapose those two verses, when he made those two things. Without me, you can do what? Nothing. But if you abide in me, you'll ask anything, and it will be done for you. Really? What do you mean, anything? Ooh, I'd like a house in Rancho Santa Fe. I'd like a raise. I'd like the promotion. I'd like a supermodel. I'd like a... No. If you abide in my love, remember? If you don't abide in my love, you're going to be like a branch broken off. You're going to be a dead lover. You'll no fruit. But if you abide in my love, what's my love? My love puts others above myself. If you abide in that love, you can ask anything you want, and God says, I'll give it to you. Oh God, I got this issue. My sister did this to me, and I just have the hardest time forgiving her. I don't want to love her. Hey, you just abide in me. You talk to me about it. You ask me to help you. I'll give you the power. I'll give you the love to love her that way. And all the world will know you're my disciple. And your joy will be full. This is real intimacy. The love of God flowing into us and the love of God flowing out of us and Jesus being glorified in it all. Chapter 14. Let's move on. Is that making sense? If you're tracking with me, say amen. Let's see what else Jesus says. Chapter 14. Let not your heart be troubled. Yeah, good word. I can't love like that. I don't want you to go to the cross. All these kind of things. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God? The answer would be yes. Then believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. I go to the cross to prepare a place for you. There are commentators who may teach it this way: Jesus was going to heaven to prepare a place for you. I think that is glaringly wrong. Where was Jesus going to prepare a place for you? He was going to the cross. There is no other place for him to go to prepare a place for you. Nothing but the cross would bring you a place with God in heaven. I go to the cross to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, look at this, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. That is the purpose of the cross, that we might be in fellowship, that wherever I am, there you will be, that you will have real intimacy together. That's why I'm going to the cross, that where I am, you may be. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Jesus says, I'm going to the cross. You know where I'm going. I've told you over and over. And the way you know. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know. We don't know. Where are you going? How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, listen to me, Thomas. You should know this by now. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The Greek is super emphatic. It is, I am the only way, I am the only truth, and I am the only life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. I want to give you three radical statements that we just read that Jesus made right there. Three really radical statements he made. Number one, he says this: the purpose of my death is your redemption. I'm going to the cross for you. I'm going to prepare a place for you. I'm going to prepare a place for you in my Father's house. Now, don't be bummed. I'm doing this for you so that you can be with God. This is for you. The purpose of my death is your redemption. That's a radical statement. Imagine someone saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to die for you. Really? That doesn't really make sense, man. Really? That's a radical statement. That's a crazy statement. Here's another crazy statement. After I die, I'll come get you. How many of you would say that's a radical statement? Hey, I'm going to die, but I'm going to come get you. Oh, that's crazy. What? That's a radical statement. Here's another one. I am the only way for anyone to come to God. I am the only way. I am the only truth. I am the only life. There is no life beside me. There is no way to come to God besides me. No one will come to God any other way. I am the only way. Those are three radical statements. And in that statement, Jesus tells us a lot. He says, listen, we can't get to God. We can't go to heaven. You can't have a good life. You can't finish well on your own. You have to do it through me. You can't get to heaven through big deeds. You can't get to heaven through big looks. And you can't get to heaven through big bucks. Well, I just give away so much money, I think God's really going to... No, it doesn't work that way. Well, I am really handsome. I think if I stand, he's going, man, you are good looking. Come on in. Well, I've done good deeds. I've done really big deeds for God. I mean, it doesn't work that way, Jesus said. If you don't come through me, you do not come. I am the only way. Three radical statements. And I tell you what, those are statements that he backed up. Those are statements that no one else can make. Those are statements. I mean, look at this. After I die, I'll come get you. Think about how radical that statement is. Why will you come get me? So that you can always be with me. That's a big statement. Let's go on. Verse 7. Let's see what else he says. He's going to make one more radical statement here. If you had known me, you would have known my Father. And from now on, you know him and have seen him. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and it is sufficient for us. Jesus said, have I been with you so long, and you have not yet known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. So how can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? Haven't you seen the Father in me, he's saying? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak on my own authority. These aren't my words. I'm not doing my will. But the Father who dwells in me does the works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe me for the sake of the works themselves. Wow. Here's the fourth radical statement Jesus makes. If you've seen me, you've seen God. That's a radical statement. If you've seen me, you've seen God. This week I was watching a PBS special on the life of Jesus. And the summary of the hour-and-a-half special was this. Well, Jesus was a really good man, a charismatic teacher, and he thought that God was going to deliver the kingdom to him, and he was misguided, and he died. His zeal and his teachings got him killed. Poor guy. He was a good teacher, though, and he was a really good man. He was really nice. And his teachings were important. Really. I tell you what, nothing could be further from the truth. Jesus claimed to be God. He said, if you've seen me, you've seen God. That's not a nice person. As C.S. Lewis said, he's either deluded, he's either delusional, he's either crazy, or worse, he's demonic. He's trying to deceive the masses from who the real God is. Or number three, he's God himself. Only one of those three work. You can't say he's a good teacher. He's either a deluded egomaniac, he's either a demoniac, or he's God himself in a human body. We can't say Jesus was a good man. He did not leave that door open to us. He did not intend to. The last thing we can possibly say is, oh, he's a good man. No. Look what he says. You've seen me. You've seen God. And Jesus, he showed the world that he was God because he foretold his death and he foretold his resurrection. Told it in advance. And then immediately after his resurrection, the whole entire world was turned upside down. Millions believed on him. Millions believed on him, and multitudes were martyred in his name. All they had to do was say, no, I don't believe, and they could have had their life spared, but they wouldn't do it because they saw him resurrect. They had his love dwelling in them. They had real intimacy with him, and they loved better than they had ever loved before. And now they were able to love in a way that says, no, I love God enough. I don't care what happens to my flesh, because they weren't selfish lovers anymore. And multitudes were martyred when all they had to do was just recant and say, I don't know him. And 2,000 years later, the world has never been the same. He is still the greatest icon, the greatest figure, the greatest person. I mean, we are dating our calendar to him. We still look back, and now billions of people follow him. History revolves around this man. You've seen me, you've seen God. I want you to consider Philip's statement. He's been with Jesus how long, church? How long has Philip been with Jesus? 3.5 years. 3.5 years. And Philip does what so many of us do when we see Jesus. He says, show me more, Jesus. Show me more than just you, and I'll be satisfied. Show me the Father, and I'll be satisfied. And Jesus said, hey, I don't understand. Have you not seen the Father in me? Haven't I revealed God's person to you? Haven't I revealed God's love for you? Didn't you hear me say I'm going to the cross to die for you, to take on the sins of the world? Do you not see the Father in me? Do you not see God's love for you? Do you not see who the Father is? Do you not see the person of God? Here's the real issue. Jesus revealed the person of God, but our flesh cares little about the person of God. Or our flesh cares little about any other person for that matter. You know what our flesh cares about? Give me something that makes things better for me. That's what our sin nature is. And I know that's hard to say. It was hard for me to get those words out of my mouth. Are we really that sinful? Are we really that selfish? The answer, everybody? Yeah, we are. And if we come to Jesus in our flesh, if we come to God in our flesh, we don't really care about God's person. You know what we want? We want to find a way to use God's power to make our life better. That's why our flesh comes to God. Show me the power of Jesus. Show me God. And show me something else. I want to see more than you. Jesus said, look, I've shown you me. And I've shown you the Father. I've shown you the person of God. I've shown you the person of God. I tell you, we see these same things in marriage. Just to use a tangible illustration of what we're talking about. You know how your flesh enters into a marriage or into a relationship? I want a spouse to meet my needs. That's how the flesh enters a relationship. Oh, she's pretty. That meets my needs. Oh, she's a good cook. That meets my needs. And it's all about you meeting my needs. The spirit of a man enters into a relationship a little differently. The Spirit says, no, I want to know you. I want to love you. I want to be loved by you. I want to do life with you. And the Spirit wants real intimacy, wants a real deep relationship. And the Spirit approaches it differently. The Spirit of man approaches it differently than the flesh of man does. But we have both going on at the same time. It's not one or the other. And the flesh approaches it and it says, hey, I want to take from you. I want to use you. What can you bring to me? And the Spirit says, no, I want to bond together as one. And now as we relate this to God, when my flesh comes to God, you know what I want? I want to use God. I want God to do something for my own benefit or for my own glory. Show me the Father, and then I'll be satisfied. Show me a miracle. Show me something. Entertain me. Show me power. Give me something. Then I'll be satisfied. And you know what happens when we do that? We use God for our own benefit, for our own glory, and God pulls away. God pulls away. I'm not immune because I'm a pastor. I can use God for my own glory just like anyone else can. Someone does something that wrongs me and says, hey, well, the Bible says you shouldn't do that. Yeah, the Bible also says, why don't you lay down your life for them? Why are you looking at the speck in their eye when you got a honking telephone pole in your eye? Right? But when I'm trying to use God for my selfish gain, do you see what I'm saying? And that's what my flesh will do. When the Spirit comes to God, we want intimacy with God. Oh, Lord, I just want to know you. And I want to be known by you. Oh, Lord, reveal yourself to me. That's what God's asking for us. Question for you. How is Philip coming to God here in verse 8? Philip says to him, Lord, show us the Father and it'll be sufficient for us. What's he looking for? Something for my benefit, something for my glory. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I often have to evaluate my motives for coming to Jesus. Often they are not Spirit-led, but flesh-led. Often I'm not coming to God to know God, I'm coming to God to use God. God, I need you to fix this problem, and where are you? And what are you coming to? What are you looking for? Jesus in verse 10, he reiterates something that's good for us to hold on to. He says, hey, look, I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen God. If you know me, you know God. Think about what he says. If you've seen me, you've seen God. Here's the question. Are you ready for the question? Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen God. Here's the question. Do you like what you see? Do you like what you see when you see Jesus? For Judas, the answer was, no, I really don't. Been following you for 3.5 years, waiting for you to set up your kingdom, waiting to sit at your right hand, waiting for you to give me a position like governor of a nation or something, you know. I've been following you for 3 years. You haven't done it. I'm getting tired of waiting. On Good Friday, I can't wait to look at this with you. We're going to look at part of the reason. What was Judas? What was going on in Judas's mind? Judas was looking for something. He was looking to elevate himself in this betrayal. Not for 30 pieces of silver. No, he wanted far more than that. He wanted Jesus to set up his kingdom, and he was going to force his hand to make it happen. We'll look at that on Good Friday. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Here's the question. Do you like what you see? Does it move your heart? Do you say, wow, God, you're amazing? Judas, instead of valuing the person of God, he wanted just God's power. Instead of valuing the love and the nature and the intimacy with God, he wanted the position. And the disciples were kind of torn. They weren't immune from that. Part of them valued the power of God just like Judas did. They were the exact same way. Following so they could sit at the right hand. Following so they could be in a position of power. And part of them followed because they loved the person of God. They had seen the true and living God. And they've never been loved like that. They've never been cared for like that. They've never had such peace, such wisdom, such kindness, such unmerited favor. And they felt the love of Jesus. They were torn. And here's the good news. For the disciples, Jesus' love prevailed. And it transformed their lives. And what may have begun as a selfish pursuit of God transformed into something far greater, something far more real, something far more intimate, something far more genuine, something far better, a real, intimate relationship with God. And their lives were transformed as a result. And in that transformation, you get the rest of the chapter 14. I'll let you read it on your own. Jesus says, hey, if you believe in me, you're going to do incredible works just like I do. And greater works that I do, you're going to do. Crazy. Greater works than what I do, you're going to do? Really? Greater works than what Jesus did, you're going to do? Is that possible? Jesus walked on water. Jesus fed 5,000. Jesus turned water into wine. You're going to do greater works than that? I don't think so. No one has. No one has. Not more than Jesus did. So what does he mean? And I'll leave you with this thought to ponder as you go home. Greater works. It depends on what you find to be great. It depends on how you define greatness. You see, I believe that in Jesus' eyes, restoring a brother who wronged you is a greater work than turning water into wine. I think in Jesus' eyes, praying for a prodigal son to come home and praying faithfully year after year, decade after decade, and continuing to turn the other cheek and showing that son the real love is a greater work than feeding 5,000 in Jesus' eyes. I think a wife who has a husband who doesn't believe, and by her conduct she wins him to Jesus over decades without a word, without preaching at him, without saying, winning her unbelieving husband to the Lord without a word. I think Jesus would say that's a greater work than walking on water. And Jesus says, hey, look, if you walk with me, if you have real intimacy with me, you're going to do greater works. You're going to do greater works. What do you think's great? A miracle or a greater work? If you're abiding in Jesus' love, I know which way you'll answer.